Hello, today is April 17th of 2021. My name is Felix Rodriguez and I'm interviewing Alondra Sanchez for the University Library and Special Collections and Archives at the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, hereafter abbreviated as UTRGV. This project is in partnership with um, Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. This project is in partnership with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Ms. Alondra Sanchez, that this interview will be placed in the University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas and Austin. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there's something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. The Library Special Collections and Archives will archive your interview and along with any other photographs or and other documentation you are willing to share. UTRGV University Library will retain copyright and non-exclusive right to the interview and any other materials you donate to special collections and archives at UTRGV. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record you consenting to make sure you agree with our interview procedures. So before we continue, I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each question. Number one, do you give University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV consent to archive your interview and your materials at the University Library?
Yes, I do.
Okay, do you agree? Do you grant UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives right, title, and interest in copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Number three, do you agree to allow UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes.
Perfect. Number four, do you grant do you grant the University Library Special Collections and Archives consent to share your Zoom interview with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion in the Voices of a Pandemic Oral History mini project, which will include posting the interview on the internet? Yes,
Yes.
I agree, or no, I do not agree.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, thank you. As you recall, we previously filled out a interview form. We use information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before Voces sends it UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives, we would have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members. So that will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at UTRGV University Library. The final 2 questions ask for your consent on what I just described. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives?
Yes.
Okay, number 6, UTRGV Special Collections and Archives and Voces receive requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone numbers or your emails with journalists?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your consent. Your experiences and stories mean a lot to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives. I look forward to what you say in the interview questions I will now ask. So, Alondra, thank you so much for your time. Like I said earlier, your stories and experiences are valuable to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives at and the Voces Project. Particularly for us at the UTRGV Special Collections, we are committed to preserving the stories of Mexican Americans and Latinos from South Texas and the Rio Grande Valley, and those who work with us with these populations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Alondra, I know that you're a student and a person of much travel. Having you here means a great deal because you will provide many people with a student insight on what to like to travel and seeing different things in different locations in these very times. So once again, I thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
So
Thank you.
the first question I'm gonna ask you, uh, please tell us who Alondra Sanchez is. Give us a brief, well, as much as you want. Who is Alondra Sanchez?
Well, I am currently 19 years old. I am majoring in marketing at UTRGV. Um, I like supporting small businesses on my social medias. Um, I also have a small YouTube channel, and if others wanna, you know, get to know me much better, they could watch a few videos of mine. And I love to travel. Um, I also like to do crazy things like while traveling, such as like skydiving and much more. But yeah, I just love to travel, hanging out with friends, photography, and that's so far. That's it so far.
Okay, well, that's amazing. I feel like I almost know you. No, I'm just kidding. I love you.
Thank you.
So the first uh, kind of section of questions I'm gonna ask you, it's the personal understanding of COVID-19 and first encounters. So that means your first reactions to COVID-19. So the first question I want to ask you is, when did you hear about COVID-19? Did you hear it on the radio, TV, social media? What happened?
Well, during that time, I was a senior at my high school. It was second semester. I believe it was February, where I heard about it through students, classmates, teachers mentioning it because there was this small group um, that we had that went to a trip for a competition, and all of a sudden a lot of people were mentioning about COVID and what it was, and we weren't thinking that it will spread or if it was so important. But since I was in color guard, the marching band program wanted to have a trip to Disney in March, and I believe it was the last weeks of February. They told us that we weren't able to go at because of what's been going on with COVID spreading, and they closed down the theme park at Disneyland or Disney World. And after that, the school told us to that we were supposed to have 2 weeks off and see how COVID, you know,
Yeah,
either leaves the valley or so.
yeah,
And
that
we
was
never went back.
yeah, that was very unfortunate. So, so based on all of that, did you were since this was very new to us, was this something you were already hating or already disliking per se? Much nicer to say.
I mean, at first, I wasn't worried about it because, once again, like this was something new to everybody. So a few weeks weren't, you know, too much. But then after we heard from the president saying that no, like, we need to be, social distancing, and we had to stay in our homes. That's where it kind of got serious for me, but just for a bit. Um, but then after a few weeks, I decided to go, travel, since, not a lot of people were on the road, and school hasn't started for me for college, so I
Yes.
decided to do something
Uh-huh.
to go
So
trip.
so you mentioned how the president was the former president actually. He was giving speeches about the coronavirus, and you say that that's when you started taking it a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
So, at what point did you realize that the pandemic was a real serious life altering event?
Um,
Like when did you say, wow, like this is getting out of hand, this is serious point blank? What was that point like?
well, on social media, I've heard a lot of situations how New York has been one of the biggest cities has that has a lot of COVID patients, and they have died because of COVID, and I thought that, well, if it hit to one of my family relatives, it's really gonna hurt me and my family. So that's when I had to get serious to stay at home for a while, have Lysols ready, and the Germex and my mask, um, and wearing it everywhere I go.
Okay, so okay. Um, over the last few months, uh, what news media, social media, or other sources do you rely on to keep you informed about coronavirus?
Well, I usually do not like hear the news, but I do follow up in social media platforms, um, such as like CNN.
Okay, that's credible. Is
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
other platforms you might hear you keep up with the news?
I mean, I just see everybody reposting like certain news flyers or post about what's been going on. I mean, there's Telemundo as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's good because that's how many of us, many of us rely on other people, and that's as Instagram, people reshare and they post about it through Facebook as well. So that's one of the main ways that people can actually get their news sources from. So that's really important. So can you share with me what you understand about COVID-19 as an infectious disease? And can you also share with me what you don't understand about this new coronavirus?
I mean, what I understand was that, I mean, it's similar to the flu. Um, like, what do you mean by like understanding of like how I see COVID? Like,
Yes, correct. So like how what do you understand about COVID? Like besides that it's infectious.
well, I mean, I've heard that it's like the flu. I've also heard that if you are coughing so much, um I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, yeah, I understand you. So what about like something you don't understand about this noble virus? Like
I don't let me see.
Like, is there anything you say, oh, I don't understand what the variants might mean? Do-
I mean,
Or is there,
I'm
is,
surprised that we learned about it this this past year, you know,
yeah,
how it hasn't become a situation that was already known like back then.
yeah,
Cause, you know, what I've heard is that it came from China, and
yeah,
how it was like a bat disease, I guess,
yes.
or something. Something happened. I'm sorry, Felix. I do not know how to describe it. I do not know.
No, I understand. I perfectly understand you. Like, what you're trying to say is like,
I'm just surprised how it wasn't something back then where it could have been situated.
yeah, something like it would have, if it was to pop up, even before at this time that it did, right?
Yeah.
So, as we are moving forward in time, uh, from last August, it was introduced that there were several companies that they were advancing the research to have a vaccine available. So, can you tell me what you know about the various vaccines available to the public? Have you taken a vaccine particularly?
Yes. I just got my second dose a few weeks ago. The dose that I took was Pfizer, the company, but I've heard that the Johnson and Johnson isn't getting good reactions to other people. So that's kind of scary because I mean, I'm surprised that there has been a big amount and nothing has happened to the company so far of like what I've heard
Yeah, since it
since
since
it blew up a few days ago.
yeah, it got paused to be released to the public. So, with that said, do you think that you, because one would recommend people to get vaccinated, right, to keep others healthy around them, would you possibly recommend the Johnson and Johnson vaccine?
I wouldn't. There has been too many cases about people's reactions not going well. And for me, I mean, I took the Pfizer one and I feel perfect after the first and second dose.
Okay, that's nice. Um, so do you have any vaccination story you would like to share with me? Maybe how you felt in line, where did you go, what was the situation like?
Well, I went to um the hospital that's in Edinburgh, the DHR, and when I was in line, well, I mean at first there was a huge line, but it went by fast. So when once I was already next to have the vaccine, my heart was like was was just throbbing, and then I asked if I was able to go to the restroom because I was super nervous. So once I was in line, it was already my turn, and I went, and my heart was just scared. I was scared, and once they told me that it was my turn, I sat down in the chair. Once again, I am not a big fan of shots or needles. So the people who took care of me called calmed me down, and once they put the needle, I didn't even feel it out at all. It took like 1 second, and after that, I just had to walk to um an auditorium and wait 15 minutes to see if there's any reaction. And then after that, I just left. And I was sore for just 2 days and it passed.
Wow, that does sound. Many people find it concerning that there's many. The thing is that there's many myths about this vaccine because it was done under such a very quick amount of time. So I
Yeah,
understand where you're
I
coming
agree.
from.
Yeah, because because of what I've heard is that a vaccine needs to take at least 5 years, and so far they took it out under a year. So that's crazy.
Okay, yeah. So, what are your beliefs? Do you believe that this vaccine was made efficiently since it was done in such a quick amount of time?
Mm,
Like, do you think it was done efficiently to the point where you can say, I'm healthy? Uh, it has kept me safe.
I mean, I think it just depends about the difference because what I've, what I've heard is that people who are younger don't seem to get COVID, and it will hit harder to the people who are a little bit older. Um, but for me, with the vaccine, I haven't felt any symptoms of COVID, thank God, nor my parents since they also have the vaccine. But so far, I'm good right now.
Okay. So, here's where we make a transition. Alondra, now I want to move on to your family. I strongly believe that talking about your family is worthy of discussion because I know you and your family are close.
Mhm.
So, as you mentioned, that your family got the, um, you know, you're so tight. That's what I mean.
Yes.
So, how many are there in your family?
So there's me, my mom, my dad, and I have two brothers. The one is 22 and the other one's younger than me. He's 17.
So, you're the youngest.
I'm the middle child. I'm 19.
Oh, okay, okay. I maybe heard wrong. So, has any of your family members or your friends contracted the virus?
I just had one friend
Um, so
that
that
mentioned symptoms, but I'm not sure if he confirmed.
oh, okay. So it wasn't official.
Yeah, but I mean, it was during like those weeks that we had to be social distancing and the staying at home and everything.
Okay, so when you were conversing with them, did did you come to find out how they got this virus?
Mm, the person that told me said that they were just outside working place to place. Um, they knew that they couldn't be around people because of the virus, but they had to make money. So they had to, keep moving places to places to their job.
Yeah, that's that sacrificial how one works and
To earn
unfortunately
money.
they get the virus. So when when you found out that this person had the COVID-19, did they tell you, express to you what they felt?
They just told me that they were they felt lazy. They felt like they had the flu, so they had shivers, had um they had fever, and that's pretty much it, what they told me.
Oh, okay. That's unfortunate. And how long ago did they gain a full recovery? How long ago was this?
This was during March, and
Oh, so
I
this was almost a full year ago when the
yeah,
pandemic was already striking us here in the valley.
yes.
Okay. Um. So when you during the pre-interview, you mentioned to me that you luckily never had you didn't contract the virus, neither did your family. So
Mhm.
when you go out, what is one measure you always take before you enter a public space?
I make sure that I have my mask on and I have um Lysol wipes in my bag and Germex. Every time I go inside a restaurant or a public place, I make sure that I have everything in my purse and always have my mask
Okay.
on.
Okay. um so what goes through your mind, because obviously you, like you said, you take precautions when you go to public spaces. You want to make sure that you're ready to go, and you're well taken care of. So what goes through your mind when someone does not follow healthy procedures when you go out to a public place?
I just imagine like like how many things they touch and uh, how other people's after them will touch that certain thing that the person touch, and it just keeps on going to other people who contaminate other things, and that's how germs are spread. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, because it's a chain of events where
Yes.
it's contagious, and people, it, there's just different people that have their own internal beliefs of what they want to believe about this new virus. So
Yes.
when you've gone out, have you witnessed any intense moments where people do not want to follow the CDC guidelines? Is there any time you've seen arguments between workers and customers?
I personally haven't seen any arguments, but I did see a few people walking into Walmarts or to HEBs without a mask on, and no one tells them nothing when it says right there in front of the stores that a face mask is required.
Yeah, and that's just a very serious thing, because as it's been proven with almost more than 500,000 uh, deaths here in the US, uh, you know, if you were working at one of these, let's say you work at HEB, let's say, and you see someone coming into the store without a mask, what do you do in that situation?
I mean, personally, I wouldn't say anything because who knows if that person will react very um aggressive. So I would be scared to go up to them, but I have heard stories about people having a big argument about it, and sometimes it becomes physical. um so I wouldn't go up to another person
Yeah, I
because I mean I don't want to I
yeah,
don't want to get hit.
it gets intense, because I've heard stories too, because my sister works at a Dollar General over at Rio Grande Valley, and she's had um, quite a few encounters with people who refuse to follow CDC guidelines, and you know, eh, that's just crazy how people there's some people that just reject the whole idea that there is a virus, and they pronounce this virus as a hoax. So it's crazy. Yeah, I totally understand you.
Yes.
So uh now we're gonna make another transition. uh this would be like the meat of the interview and why I chose you. And the dominant reason why I chose you as an interview is as an interviewee, sorry, is because you've been traveling a good while during the pandemic and per se when it started. So what I want to ask you now is, during the pandemic, what places have you explored? Give us a summary of the places you've been to during this noble pandemic.
Well, I I have always wanted to do a road trip to California after I graduated. So, um, after g- graduating virtually, I I asked my dad if he would want to have a road trip to California since my uncle lives over there. So we decided to go, and we headed over to West Texas. We crossed over to New Mexico, Utah. Uh, we went through the Four Points, Nevada, and we headed over back to California, and we went down to to Arizona, and we came back.
Wow, that's just amazing.
Oh, oh, and sorry, I missed one thing. And then after that, I went to Cancun, Mexico.
Wow, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I've heard, that's totally cool how you've gotten the chance, you've got the chance to travel. And have you been to those places prior to the pandemic?
Which places? To the
Like,
ones I just mentioned?
yeah, the ones you just mentioned.
Yes, we had a few stops here and there.
Oh, okay. Uh, and plus those places you went to, West Texas, plus the Four Points, and then moving on to California. Were there any other places that you go that you went to apart from those places? Like, did you go anywhere else?
Like, okay, I went to Utah, and I mean, I went to the red big rocks, the arches.
Yes.
Um, and I remember I saw a few, well, a lot of people that did not wear their face mask, and it was really packed in the town that we passed through in Utah.
That same statement that you just made, it's very mutual with me. Uh, in December, I went to Florida and I went to the park over there. And I remember I was sitting down in one of the benches and arriving at the park, and
Hmm.
we're not wearing a mask. And then, it just comes back to what we just talked about, that people don't follow the mask mandate.
Hmm.
And I feel, I don't know how you feel. Maybe you want to mention after what I'll just say really quick.
Hmm.
That maybe they don't follow these guidelines because their leaders or prior leaders that we've
Beliefs. Hmm.
they don't have the same seriousness towards this virus.
Yeah, I agree. Because there's a lot of people who have their own beliefs, and if someone tells them something about their beliefs, or if they're doing it wrong, then they get aggressive to people who tell them something.
Yeah. So, going back to, your travels, what fun activities could you not do because of COVID-19?
When I was traveling, or
Yeah, when you were traveling, like, is there anything that you wanted to do but you couldn't do because of COVID-19?
well, when I was in California, they when my parents wanted to go eat at a restaurant, they said that they weren't able to eat inside, so the restaurants had to make their own outside area to eat. um but there wasn't much. I mean, you could do a lot of things. Just the only thing you needed was to have your mask on, to respect others, respect others' spaces.
Yeah, so, uh, let me just ask this. When you traveled when we graduated, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
So, time what was the time span of this? How long did you last traveling for?
Maybe for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Wow,
Maybe,
that's a
yeah.
very long time.
Or yeah.
So so you mentioned that these places or the activities you couldn't do, were there any uh, plans that you had to change because of COVID? Is there anything that happened and that you had planned but changed because of COVID?
um I know at the beach, we couldn't go over there since they closed down the access, and the Schlitterbahn, and they also closed down the island. I think, but I couldn't go over there, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
What
I,
uh what what location are we talking about here?
okay,
California?
so here, be, before the road trip, my parents wanted to head over to the island, to SBI, that is near Los Fresnos, near Brownsville. So once we heard that we couldn't go inside, or because the accesses to the beach were closed because of COVID, um, we couldn't go over there at the beach. So we decided to go to the road trip, and that was pretty much the only thing we couldn't do that was around our area. So we decided to go out to a road trip.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there was a restriction over there at, yeah, South Padre Island. So out of all these places that you've been to, uh, which ones do you think that they had strict guidelines for preventing COVID-19?
Um,
Like which state maybe was stricter on mask mandating or social distancing? Because as you mentioned that you saw people uh, going in and out of these public
Without a mask,
without
yeah.
a mask. So what places would you say that they have strict guidelines and people have to abide by these policies?
I would say that California, Los Angeles, California, because there would be a lot of people who would still have their mask on, um, in public places, and in the beach as well. But that's it. I mean, Utah wasn't very strict. Also, L- Nevada and Las Vegas, a lot of people had him on and off. Um, it didn't look like it was very restricted. But yeah,
Wow. So, California, in contrast to Utah and Nevada, they were much stricter, and of course, Nevada and Utah, they were less enforcing, I guess you could say. One could
yeah.
say. So, out of these places, do you have plans to go back to these states anytime soon?
Yes, I'm hoping to go back to California again.
Okay, that's amazing. I wish you the very best on that
Thank you.
part. So you've been to a lot of places, and just to get a quick note, you went by car or did you?
So in the road trip, we bought a- an RV, so we went to road trip in that RV.
Oh wow, that's amazing. You went by RV. That's
Yeah,
exciting. So,
it was kind of hard,
oh, okay,
but we made it.
but you made it.
We
Okay,
had a lot of ups and downs.
so you were driving through all these small towns,
Yes.
and everywhere. Do you think that there is a place from all these places you've been to? Do you think that there's a place like the Valley?
I'd say no.
So you think that the Valley is one of its kind, right?
Yes, very much.
And can you explain why that is?
Well, it's just the vibes. I'm just kidding. No, I mean in the valley
What makes the Valley so unique? What's your answer to that?
about like COVID wise, like
No,
like
just
the
the Valley itself.
restrictions.
Like, yeah, why would you say that the Valley, like, out of all the places you've been to, why would you say that there's no other place like the Valley? What makes you say that? What aspects of the Valley do you find interesting for you to respond that way?
I mean, where I have been, I have seen majority and almost all the citizens from the valley wear their mask with no problem, and they follow through the guidelines. Um, but that's what I've seen so far here in the valley.
Yes, and that I think I think that's what you're trying to say, that because people here are so open-minded to this virus, and they pull through by following CDC guidelines, you would say that you could say in a very strong sense that things are normal here in the valley compared to other places, because people here do follow, for most of the part, they
Mhm.
do follow guidelines, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So what is one piece of advice that you have for people who want to travel during the pandemic?
Um, to always make sure that whenever you get down in a restaurant or a gas station, to make sure that you put Germix, you apply it once you get in store and after, just so that way your area that you are are in, that it's that there's no contamination of the place that you went to, that is going back into your car or RV, um, so that way you could stay safe with the other persons that are with you, and also to make sure you wear your mask at all times, um, in public especially.
Okay, that is a very precious piece of advice. You know, we definitely want to make sure that people stay safe during these times, and especially if you're traveling, because like you go to
Anything.
all these different places, and of course you want to stay safe.
Hmm.
It's not worth risking your life by just simply putting on a mask. You got me.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So now we make another transition, and Alondra, you and I both graduated from Hidalgo High School from the class of 2020, the infamous class of 2020 that uh, unfortunately we did not have a prom, nor did we get to walk on a physical stage. We
I
had to
agree.
graduate virtually.
On YouTube.
Yes, which is very unfortunate. We we spent 12 years of our lifetime preparing for, such an amazing moment, and get we get struck with this pandemic. So now I want to get to the I've gotten insight about you as a traveler, your eyes and your insight about that. Now I want to get your opinions, um, and your experiences as a student from the class of 2020,
Mhm.
um, and how you feel about missing out on important dates. So, firstly, how did you react when you found out graduation was canceled?
I cried. I was so confused. Um, I was sad right when I heard about it, and I started to cry because I mean, it was a huge deal for me. Um, and of course, for the class of 2020 and for my parents, because I've always thought that, I mean, I wouldn't have accomplished so many things in high school, and I wanted to, just at least show them, that I made it through and that I'm gonna continue my education.
Yes, of course, I completely agree with you on that note. And to me personally, I assumed you would feel the same because there were other high schools like the McAllen high schools that they had graduations with guidelines, and unfortunately, Hidalgo did not have. Uh, I'm not sure what was happening behind the scenes, but
Mhm.
in my opinion, I believe that they didn't, they don't, they didn't have the ability to efficiently organize such a big event. And it's not their fault, of course, because, of course, the pandemic was relatively new by that time. So, but for other high schools to have that graduation and not Hidalgo, it just makes it quite unfair. Would you agree with me?
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, so what about prom? We got the news that prom was canceled. So did you have plans for prom? What was happening? Is
I
there
wasn't ready for prom. I didn't even have a dress. So I didn't spend anything, so I'm good with that.
okay, so you weren't prom was just a side thing for you.
Well, yeah, since the date was not as close, since prom was supposed to be in April, and everything happened the last week of February.
Okay, so let's say that there was a way for these dates to happen and you were in charge to efficiently organize these events. What would you have done in these events for them to happen and happen successfully?
Um, I would still say that we would still have our social uh, distancing, making sure that we test like the students if they have COVID or if students have symptoms to not go to the event, and obviously wear their mask.
Yeah, that's very smart thing to do. I'm assuming that's what other high schools, such as the McAllen ones, did to efficiently have these events.
Yes.
So now let's move on to uh, class. Uh, we stopped going to class after spring break.
Yes.
So how was the change for you from physical class to online classes?
At first, I thought I have mentioned that it was a piece of cake since, I could do my homework at whatever time just to make sure that it's due before 11:59 on Sundays. Well, on Fridays or Sundays, it depends on the teacher's when she wants us to turn it in. But at first it was pretty easy. I didn't have any negative thoughts about it, but then during the weeks, since we had to stay in lockdown mode, I kind of got tired of it because it wasn't like I wasn't there physically with the teacher learning about the subjects and how it was before, since everything had to be moved online, and there would be times where my head would hurt for seeing the screen so much. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so w- I'm assuming that you prefer physical class. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So even from being, because you're a student at UTRGV, you take online classes or you go to the campus.
Right now I am taking online classes.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you still prefer going to physical class, right?
Um,
Or no? Has your opinion changed then?
well, now that okay, I got used to online right after like when first semester started for me for college. I got used to it, and then now I'm just thinking, well, since I love to travel so much, I could travel and also have my classes online so that way it doesn't interfere with me traveling since I want to travel.
Yeah, that makes very much that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So so class of 2020 is um is there we didn't get to finish the school year properly as
Yes,
we would have hoped to do so, right?
yes.
So is there any memory that you wanted to have from being part of the class of 2020 that didn't happen because of the school shutting down?
I would say that I would have wanted to experience gr- graduation with being around my friends and walking, the stage, across the stage, and just shaking the hand of my principal and just smiling, taking a picture with the diploma and everything.
Yes, that sounds like a very mutual feeling because uh, I'm sure everybody wanted to have that exact same memory. Plus the senior field trip, prom. Others wanted to have prom. You
Mhm.
know, so I think that's a very great answer. So that concludes that portion, and we move on to the final portion of this interview. Um, I'll ask you some final questions. How are you satisfied with the local response to COVID-19 in Hidalgo, the city
Um,
which.
yes. I haven't heard anything bad that people are against with. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory to just wear your mask and if you have symptoms to stay home. And since there's already a vaccine, not official, but I mean, once again, I haven't felt anything. We have those resources, and yeah, it's pretty much.
Okay, so are you satisfied with the state response to COVID-19 led by Governor Greg Abbott? Should I remind you that he ended the mask mandate on March 10th, where he announced it? Are you satisfied with how he's been responding to COVID-19?
I personally think that, I mean, I don't agree with his decision, but I mean, to each their own. I mean, I still wear my mask for the protection of mine and of others. And if others do not want to go through it, then I mean, I think it's wrong, but since it's already off, I can't say much about it.
Okay, okay. So as you know, we 2020 was an election year, and we just came off a very controversial administration, that being former President Donald Trump. So, are you satisfied with how President Biden and his administration have has responded to COVID-19 as to how former President Donald Trump has handled the pandemic in his administration?
Mm, well, the only thing that I didn't like about the our present, you know, our president, our present president is that he just decided to take off the mandate about the mask when things are still going on about others having COVID, and I think it wasn't the right time to take it off, and especially if we don't have the right prescribed vaccine.
Yes. However, let me just quickly give you a side note on that.
Hmm.
You said that President Biden uh, uh, stopped this mask mandate. However, it wasn't President Biden. It was Governor Greg Abbott. It's the state
Oh, oh,
disease.
I forgot. I'm sorry. I
Yeah, in fact, President Biden reached out to Governor Greg Abbott to, urge him to change minds.
uh-huh.
So, should I ask again? Do you think that President Biden is doing a better job, or a less efficient job than former President Donald Trump?
Um,
Like,
mm,
are you would you aim for President Biden, or would you aim for Donald Trump's yeah, how would you say this? I'm getting mixed up. Like, which is
mhm.
President Biden is handling the pandemic better?
Let me see. Well, I've heard a lot of things about how Trump knew and everything about COVID, and I've heard a lot of conspiracies about it. But I mean, can I not answer this one?
Okay, okay. We can
Okay.
move on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Um,
sorry.
if you had the power to respond to COVID-19 with policies, laws, or other workplace decisions, what would you do differently?
Can you repeat that question? Like,
Like, let's say, yeah, that you were a government official
mhm.
and it's your job to respond to COVID-19. How would you handle COVID-19 to better situate the virus?
I mean, for me, I would still ask people to require to wear their mask, to still make sure that they have Germex with them because to not spread, germs to others. Um, I mean, that's all that I could pretty much say to social distance from each other. Um, I mean, I have followed all the regulations and I haven't received COVID. Um, and I have my vaccines. Haven't felt anything, any symptoms. So pretty much just wear your mask, have Germex, social distance, uh, and if you're able and if you want to get the vaccine,
Yeah. So is that it?
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So, my last question to you is there any other thing, any other story or experience that you would like to share regarding your travels or being a student? Is there anything else, anything you want to share or you want to ask or something?
um no, I mean that's pretty much it. Just to, I mean, I hope that everything goes back to normal, but who knows? And who knows how long is it going to take to go back to what it once was.
Okay, well, Alondra Sanchez, my very worthy interviewee. I want to thank you for your participation in the UTRGV Voces Oral History Project, and I want to thank you for your um, uh, offering as student insight into your experiences traveling across the country and your experiences as a student. That means so much to us over at the Voces Project and, of course, at the UTRGV Voices and Archives Project. I want to thank you so much for having the time, um, and thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Alondra.